Certainly, I really regret we had to be the bringers of this awful news. We did not know when we were elected that the good times were about to end.
Every other school district in the state of California is dealing with the same thing Capistrano is doing, severely underfunded. I mean, if we want to point the finger, you point the finger at Sacramento, there's no doubt about it.
I'd rather be teaching, way rather be teaching.
We're going through some difficult economic times right now, but there's at least one segment of the workforce that's doing pretty well: unionized public employees. While the private sector has lost millions of jobs since the recession began, the public sector has seen a net gain. In California, a state facing a $20 billion budget deficit, tensions between teachers' unions and cash-strapped districts is high. In April 2010, things came to a head in South Orange County when 2,200 teachers in the Capistrano Unified School District went on strike after the board imposed a 10% pay cut.
We're willing to pony up, but to make a drastic and huge permanent pay cut is asking too much.
There's one sticking point. That's the big T word, temporary.
These tough times, we definitely are willing to take our share, but we want the temporary with a trigger, meaning that if more money comes in, it automatically goes back to teachers.
South Orange County communities like San Clemente and Laguna Niguel are very attractive to families who can afford to live here. The area has a wonderful climate, great surfing and sailing, and quality public schools. It's not exactly the kind of place where you'd expect to have a teacher's strike.
I always say I live in paradise.
We have a creek near us, we have bike paths, walking spaces. I mean, there were so many things that we took into consideration when moving here. And I mean, obviously, having a 6-year-old, it was a schools. It was a big deal. It was a big deal that had a really strong public school system. This is a great school district.
We are the 9th largest district in the state of California, #1 in academic performance for our size.
We are very fortunate to have parents, active parents, as partners, and that's a big part of the success of our students.
Even though the public schools are performing well, Tom Bell, a law professor at Chapman University, chooses to send his children to the Van Dam Academy, a private school in Aliso Viejo.
For myself, I think probably a lot of those teachers who went on strike are great teachers. And they're teachers I would want teaching my kids. I don't want them teaching my kids in that system, though, because the incentives are all messed up. I want really good teachers, incentivized to be the best they can be for my kids. And I just don't see that happening in the local government schools.
One of the reasons public school systems are paying so much for their teachers is that the system is top-heavy. Most school districts have a policy of first hired, last fired.
If we didn't have the seniority rule, then I guess the big question is how do you objectively decide? What do you base it on? How do you decide, which is the first person to go? And believe me, I'm not the one who could come up with that answer.
Political discord is nothing new in Capistrano Unified. A few years ago, parents began asking then Superintendent James Fleming and the school board some hard questions about how the school district was being run, including why the cash-strapped district spent $52 million to build a new administration building.
The concern, I think, from parents, and this was a parent-led concern, that the schools themselves were needing a lot of repair, and there were a lot of children in portables that were leaky and moldy, and why are we spending the money on a district office building when the money should be used to improve our schools? And I think that really started the whole thing.
The recall was 5 years in the making, 2 election cycles, lots of recall signatures. It was a community effort.
Anna Bryson is one of the reform trustees elected to the board in 2006.
So I was asked to come in and be part of what I call our cleanup crew. When we came here, no one knew what the budget was in this place. No one could understand it. And after looking at it, I know why they couldn't understand it.
The Reform Board, which promised fiscal accountability, got off to a good start.
When we first came on as trustees, the first group of recall, we posted all of our budgets in the black.
But then the economy tanked, which resulted in a state budget crisis and severe cuts to the California public school system. Capistrano Unified faces a $34 million budget deficit next year.
In June of last year, we reduced by imposition over 10% all our administrators, but we only have 169 administrators, whereas we have 2,000 teachers, and then we have the CSEA and our Teamsters and other unions.
I think we feel like we've gone from the frying pan into the fire.
As bad as the Fleming administration was, we kind of yearned for those happier times. This board has gone beyond disrespecting teachers.
What the school board, as I understand it, is doing is trying to save some costs. They are constrained, thank goodness, by Prop 13. They can't come after we taxpayers for as much money as they want, so they have to economize. And those teacher salaries are a huge hit to their budget. I completely understand why they would look at that and look at it hard.
In fact, employee compensation in Capistrano Unified accounts for more than 85% of the district's budget. Most of that money goes to the teachers.
We are the third highest paying district in Orange County at this time.
An average teacher in the Capistrano Unified School District earns $81,000 a year.
The top end is $98,000, and that is without health benefits or anything else.
I'm standing up for students more than anything else, because how are you going to be able to retain and recruit great teachers when you're at the lower end, the lowest end possibly in Orange County on the pay scales? It's just not going to happen.
I'm willing to bet there's a long line of folks who would be willing to get paid on average $81,000 a year and have the summers off and have great benefits and a lot of job security. I bet in this economy you could find a lot of people like that.
As someone who is glad that the person that I entrust with my daughter 6 hours a day is someone who is thought of as a professional, who is paid well and highly educated, that means a lot to me.
Underlying the tension between the school board and the teachers is the union's concern that the board supports charter schools and voucher programs, which the union sees as a threat.
In fact, I think it's very transparent what they're trying to do, which I think is destroy public education in Capistrano.
If we had had more competition in education, this would not have happened. It might have happened at one school. That school would have gone out of business and would have fixed things up. But you would not have had this huge system-wide shutdown.
The problem is with charter schools, it's using public money without the oversight that's necessary. The teachers have no rights. They can be indiscriminately fired.
There's got to be a better way. So the people who are worried about attacks on the government system, well, I'd say step up to the plate and make it something that's not so worthy of attacking.
We tell our 5-year-olds to stand up to bullies, and we feel like we need to do that too, and we need to teach them through this.
The children are watching how we handle this.
After a 3-day strike, the school board and the teachers union came to terms. But with no signs of an economic turnaround in California, the prospects for the future are unclear at best. Complicating matters is the fact that union members are now backing a new effort to recall 2 of the reform board members in the hope of replacing them with union supporters.
After this cut takes effect, they still have a huge budget gap. They still have teachers with pink slips. They still can't guarantee that class sizes aren't going to go up after all is said and done. And so we still have a quagmire.
We can't keep paying government workers what we've been paying, what they say they're owed. And maybe they are owed under these contracts where their bosses essentially handed over our money pretty freely. So that can't keep happening.
It's not about just lowering taxes, and it's not about I won't vote for any new taxes. There's got to be a way that we support our public institutions, and I don't care if it's schools or roads or freeways or whatever it is, but we need to have some new thinking here.
I want to leave a sound financial structure behind that takes care of the teachers, the workers, and the children. And in order to do that, we have to do what is difficult at this time. But the long view, I'm extremely optimistic.
For Reason TV, I'm Paul Fine.
It seems a little